I am, again, very blessed to be back in front of you. Now, how many were here earlier? All right, thank God. So I don't got to rehash. We can start with something new. Touch your neighbor, amen? I thought what I would do for these next few moments is give you some of the rationale of why we believe Black Lives Matter is important. Give you a sense of what we intend to do to make sure that the systemic and structural issues that actually call into question the value of Black, brown, and non-white lives, what we as faith congregations can indeed do. So I'll start off with some numbers. 3/5. Many of us should be somewhat familiar now with this number because our conversations earlier today reminded us that 3/5 of a human being is what the bodies of Black folks was worth according to the Constitution. We should recognize these faces, the Charleston Nine, who were shot in the historic sanctuary, Charleston, South Carolina. But we also must appreciate that the connection between 3/5 and these Charleston Nine should remind us that there has not been one day in the history of the United States of America where the bodies of Black folk, indigenous folk, have not been subjected to arbitrary violence at the hands of the state and or vigilantes. And that Mother Bethel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, was the Church of Denmark Vesey, who was a historic freedom fighter and abolitionist. That church had been bombed and burned down many times as a target of the Jim Crow, white, racist South. So many believe this is just another act of violence at a historically Black freedom fighting center. That is the history. These pictures should represent to you and to me why we are concerned about Black lives. We have the faces of men and women, trans folk who have been killed by police, and you would see some Latino faces up there because at its best, Black is not just a racial identity, but it is a posture over and against the whiteness of a system that seeks to destroy the lives of the other. This is a quote: "Your ridiculous demands and anti-law enforcement attitude has reached a level that is unacceptable. Consider yourself on notice. The Fraternal Order of Police president here in Louisville made these statements in regards to the young people fighting for the right to not be subjected to violence at the hands of police officers. 28 is the number of hours that pass between the death of a Black person in this country at the hands of law enforcement, security, or vigilantes in this country. 1%, of course, Brother Bernie Sanders and Occupy and others have made this number so popular, but we must also understand that the corporate interests of this country continue to feed the deportation system of profit, the prison industrial complex that profits off of the bodies of folk being locked up in jails and prisons. 0.5%, half of 1%, is an important number because that is the number of individuals in any given city who drive over 60% of the intracommunal gun violence. Half of 1% is responsible for over 60 to 70% of the intracommunal violence, or what others may say Black on Black crime. Why is that important? It says that if you have 100 shootings in your city, it is not because you have 100 folks shooting, but you have a very small number of individuals who are solving their conflicts with violence. But why is it that a small number of actors can overdetermine in our minds the criminality of a whole group? It is because black lives do not matter. This is a very important conversation that you and I must continue to wrestle with. And how then do we make sure we live free? In our work, we believe that we must create an environment where we talk about proclamation, policies, programs. Can everybody repeat after me? Proclamation. Policy. Program. Proclamation means that we must develop a theology of resistance that proclaims healing, redemption, and belonging. Part of that narrative that I talked about earlier. And we must develop a racial analysis. People of faith, we cannot be so, as my grandmother said, so heavenly bound that we're no earthly good. We can't talk about the real issues and the struggles. How do we create proclamation that resists white supremacy and change hearts and minds so black and brown lives can matter? A proclamation that will address the implicit bias, those attitudes and perceptions that live within our unconscious, that we don't even know exist until we see someone who triggers an emotion or thought that we don't want to have, but we know has been wired in our brain. The Apostle Paul said, the things I don't want to do, I do. The things I do, I don't want to do. Who shall save me from this wretched man that I am? Thanks be to God. We must address through proclamation our implicit bias. This is a powerful excerpt from a book I will commission to you, The Condemnation of Blackness, Khalil Gibran Muhammad. And I won't have time to read the whole text to you, but he pretty much makes the argument that the colored criminal does not enjoy racial anonymity, which cloaks the offenses of individuals of the white race. The press is certain to brand him, and the more revolting his crime proves to be, the more likely it is because of his race, and it will be advertised. This idea that black criminality is a result of black people committing more crime is a false equivalent, according to a 1928 sociologist. And it has, through the years, spawned the criminology and sociological impulses of our time. We must then push ourselves to reinvent or deprogram ourselves. This is a nice reading list. I encourage you to take out your phones and somebody put it on Twitter, Facebook, I don't know, because y'all not going to be able to write them all down real quick. A good reading list to help us deprogram so we can be in a position to unlearn the very harmful falsities that predispose us to believe black lives do not matter. We must then create policies that dismantle structural and systemic barriers, policies that continue to eat away at the imago Dei, as Brother Jim said earlier, and we must replace them with redemptive and inclusive frameworks that widen the circle of concern. I'll keep moving because I only have about a minute left. We have programs that will allow us as congregations, people of faith, to leverage our collective assets. So we are not just dependent on a government that has proven to be unwilling to make sure that all of us have what we need, but we must be able to hold this government, our government, accountable and provide programs, live-free congregations we call them, that help with mentorships, that help with trainings, that help with reentry programs, so we can find ways to resist. If we do proclamation, policies, and programs, it will help us, I believe, be well positioned to activate our bodies, our ballots, and our bucks. Our bodies, our ballots, and our bucks. And my brothers and sisters, your body as an individual, our body as a collective must be activated in the work of making Black Lives Matter. This is not a spectator sport. There's a job for all of us to do. We just must find our role, as we were talking about a few minutes ago. You get in. Hello, somebody. Where you what? Touch your neighbor, right? You get in where you fit in. And what does it mean to activate our body, our ballot, and our bucks? We are saying that we know there are axes of evil, we call them. Not individuals. Go back to what we talked about with Dr. King earlier. That we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about systems. That there are systems of criminal justice and corporate interests that profit off the demonization of black, brown, and other bodies. What does it mean for us to then dismantle this axis of evil and make it a redemptive structure? Finally, as I close, I said it earlier, I will say it again. The race is on for the 3%. There are, let me not lie, because I told God I'll stop lying if he saved me. There are several 100,000 congregations in the United States of America. Think about that. What if our congregations, people of faith, our gatherings, actually organized ourselves to move down a trajectory of justice that made the lives of the poor and the dispossessed matter? The 3% lies within our grasp. May we reach out, activate, and execute this vision through the gifts that God has given to us. God bless you.